Are we all set at the back? Great. Oh, wrong one. Marc, thanks for joining us ahead of the Pro-Am this afternoon. Can you talk to us what it's like to be back here at the Australian PGA Championship?
Yeah, it's awesome to be back. A lot of great memories here from previous Australian PGAs and family holidays as a kid. So the Gold Coast is a great place, and looks like the weather's going to be a little nicer than it was last week in Melbourne too. So yeah, excited to be back. Obviously got a purpose to be here. Want to try and win one of those or win this event. I haven't managed to win one of the 3 big Australian events yet, so that's very high on my list. Probably a missing part of my resume. So yeah, happy to be here and hoping I can have a big week.
You joined us last night at the Greg Norman Medal. It was a great evening, but I'm sure not as good as you didn't enjoy it as much as last year when you were the winner. Minjee Lee winning as the first female. Can you give us your thoughts on her season? Yeah,
I think it was amazing that she won. She's had a great year. It's really stamped her authority on the LPGA Tour. With a win and a lot of other good finishes, winning the Vic Open. Clearly had a great year and deserved the medal. And to be the first female as well, it really, I think it was a great thing. It's not just the best male golfer, but the best golfer of the year, and I think she really deserved it.
Greg.
Marc, Craig Willis said last night that your face is plastered all over the Gold Coast. Is there any pressure or expectation around being a tournament headliner?
Every tournament I go to, I want to, obviously do as well as I can, try and win the event, and that's, no different whether I'm sort of an underdog or on the posters all around town. It's pretty cool driving around and seeing that. But yeah, no, I don't think it's any different. Once you get out there, the pressure that, if you feel pressure, the only pressure you feel is from the, yourself, I guess, that you put on yourself. It's a great field this week. Obviously there's me, Cam and Beef on those posters, but there's so many other guys that are very, very capable of winning the event. It's a pretty strong field, I feel like, and whoever wins the event is going to have to play great golf, and so it's not going to change my mindset apart from having to do that.
Jim?
Marc, I guess to touch on what you first brought up, really good Aussie golfers like Rod Pampling and John Sendon have only won one big Australian tournament, and they cherish that very much. Do you have any dialogue or any sense of how much they do really cherish their big Australian win?
Yeah, it's something that every Australian wants to do. My first golf memories were at the Australian Masters in Melbourne. My parents took me down there, and I was probably watching those guys play then. So yeah, it's something you see your idols lifting that trophy, and you want to do that as well. That's probably one of their most memorable wins, I'm sure. They've both won on the PGA Tour, but I'm sure they cherish that one as much, if not more, than those wins. I hope I get a chance to contend this week. That would be great. You've got to start with winning one, obviously. I've won some big tournaments, but that is the missing part of my resume, is the Australian tournaments. So yeah, it would mean a lot to win it, but there's a lot that has to go right to win a golf tournament, no matter where it is, whether it's on the PGA Tour, Australian Tour, or European Tour.
So you started really strongly last year, 67, 65. Do you see always lots of birdies out here? And when you get into a run of pars like you did, I guess, in the third round last year, what are the tricks around the course that can sort of trip you up a bit?
I think, every week putting is the key, but I think more so here because of the, little bit of grain in the greens. The greens are quite severe, and whether you're putting for birdie or pars, those putts have to go in. So it seems like it's one of those courses that if you start to see a few go in, you get confidence and you can really get on a run. But on the other side of that, if you miss a couple, which I probably did Saturday last year, it's easy for them to keep missing. So I think making the putts is massive for confidence. Going into greens, if you're thinking about a way not to miss the green rather than trying to work out how to make birdie, it's a bad thing. So putting's definitely the key.
Mark, you spent a lot of time with Cam the last couple of weeks. How far can he go? I think Jeff Ogilvy talked about he can be a top 10 player. How far do you think Cam can take his game?
Yeah, I think he can take it as far as he wants to take it. I actually read the article this morning in the paper, and I think Jeff hit the nail on the head. He's certainly got the talent. He works hard at it. Just a matter of giving himself the opportunities. He's got the drive. I don't think the big situations are going to faze him too much. He's got. I think he can take it as far as he wants to take it. He's definitely a massive talent, and it's pretty exciting for Australian golf that he's on the radar.
Tony.
Mark, have you had much to do with Lucas Herbert over the years? Obviously, he's a kid from regional Victoria as well. Have you had much to do with him, and have you been aware of, his year in Europe and what he's accomplished?
Well, I haven't actually had much to do with Lucas, but I am aware of his year. I did the Monday qualifiers on the Nationwide Tour at the time. I think he started out with, conditional status in Europe maybe?
No status.
No status. Mm-hmm. So he was sponsors exemption. So that's pretty impressive to have the year he did, get to the final event in Dubai off no status. He's clearly a pretty big talent as well. You got the guys on the PGA Tour, new guys, Cam Davis, Curtis Luck this year. I think you have to throw Lucas Herbert's name amongst, one of the guys to watch out for in the future for sure.
Do you see that group almost sort of stepping forward a bit this week as well? And I guess we're coming out of a generation and there's a new one about to step forward, led by Cam and probably Lucas. Do you feel those young guys sort of pushing you into the senior status?
Yeah,
soon?
I'm definitely feeling like I'm the one of the older guys now. It's been a few years since there's been a batch of guys come onto the tour like that. It's exciting for golf. Spending as much time with Cam as I have and playing as many practice rounds with him has really made me work harder and improve my game as well. So seeing those guys come through, it's motivating for us as well to try and not show them how it's done, but to kind of lead the way, I guess. Yeah.
Just one more. You talk about each year, I guess, not winning one of the big ones. Does it add pressure mentally to you? Do you sort of feel the weight of that want to win one of these growing, or each year that passes, and we seem to ask the same question in the last few years. Does it affect you? Does it add any weight to you that a year goes by and you haven't?
That pressure definitely grows for sure. As far as pressure, I don't know if I feel pressure to win, but I'm definitely, I'll say, a lot more determined to do the right things and try and give myself the best chance to contend when I'm at home. I think the first few years that I came back when I was on tour for the events, it was almost a bit of a holiday, like a bit of a deep breath and right, we're done for the year, well, let's enjoy this week, hopefully we play well. The last few years it's been more of go through the correct process that I do on tour. Not that I didn't do it those first few years, but really make sure I'm doing the right things. And because I don't want to get another 5 years down the track and still be getting asked the questions as well. I'm determined to do very well. I feel like last year was a big step, getting off to the start I did. Obviously it was a disappointing third round, but I think I finished 4th, which is not what I was after, but it's more what how I want to play in these events, rather than, shooting a 5 under in the last round to finish 8th or something like that. Yeah, so I think last year was a good big step in the right direction, just with doing the right things, and hopefully I can improve on that this year.
Jimmy.
You mentioned difference in weather last week, obviously different in golf course as well. What are the changes you have to make this week as opposed to last week? Is it ball flight? Is it just getting used to the grasses, or what's the big difference for you with your game?
It's just the stuff around the greens. When we do it every week on tour as well, we're playing in different parts of the country on different grasses, so it's just time on the chipping green, seeing how the ball's reacting on the greens. Obviously the speed of the greens is a little slower this week, being the Bermuda and the elevated and exposed greens that they are. But I think the biggest thing is getting used to the grain on the greens again. In Queensland you have to read the grain, and as well as slope. Last week it's just slope. So like nothing we don't do every year, but every week on tour. But I think it's just a little bit extra putting and chipping.
And although you come from Victoria, you're not from the sandbelt and everything like that, with how much you've played in the US, does this course almost suit you better than last week's course did?
Yeah, I think it's I think there's a bit more trouble out on this golf course. I think iron play, like good iron play, is very important here, with the severity of the runoffs around the greens. So yeah, it could, especially if it blows like it is now. I enjoy playing in the wind. Yeah, I'll say yes, because we're here this week. Hopefully I can prove that right.
And you mentioned Cam, you've spoken during this year about how good his short game is, wedge game is. When you go out and play a practice round with him, do you pick his brain about how he goes about it, or do you watch what he does, or do you just know that he's got that sort of game?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Pretty much watching. I'll ask him a few questions here and there. I actually changed my wedge setup in Malaysia. So Malaysia was the first week that I went to 4 wedges. For the last 5 years, my highest lofted wedge has been a 57. I put a 60 in the bag and had to, move around my wedges just a little bit, the lofts, just to dial them in. But that's really helped me. Seeing him, like I normally like shaping shots and taking spin off it or adding spin for distance. He seems to have a lot of really good numbers, and hit a lot of full shots in. So I watched him, thought I'd try it out, and it worked pretty well in Malaysia. So and then last week as well, hit a lot of good wedge shots. So yeah, I think as a golfer you always got to try and keep learning, whether that's off an older guy or a young guy who's really good at something like Cam is at his wedge play. I'm always trying to get better, and I feel like we can learn off each other.
And are the Aussies better than the other guys out on the PGA Tour at doing that, do you think? Are you guys closer and more willing to help each other out?
I wouldn't say we're closer. I would say, all the the Americans, they have their team events every year, so they're pretty close to each other. But I think the Australians are very willing to help each other out. That's I think pretty clear with guys who are coming onto the tour. Us older guys sort of try and do whatever we can to help out in any way we can. So as John Sendon and Rod Pampling did to me, I'm happy to do it to the younger guys as well.
Jim?
Mark, Cam did say last night that you're a bit of a Grinch when it came to the Leishman lager, that you filled your fridge but didn't really share it with anyone else. Can you give us a estimated time when the mythical beer might appear in Australia?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. It's been pretty tough to get, to be honest. We've been struggling to make enough of it. Couldn't get it for about a 4-month period this year. So we're starting to make more of it now. It's not my brewery, it's someone else's brewery who make it for us. But hopefully within the next couple of years we'll be able to get some back here. But it's sort of, like I was saying last night, I'm more invested in golf at the moment. Trying to do that as well as I can rather than worry about all the other stuff. Obviously, eventually we'll probably do something a bit bigger, but at the moment, it's more golf.
Yep, Tony.
One more, Mark, just on the young guys, Cam and Curtis obviously being on tour next year. Will you, A, what can you tell them and how can you help them sort of transition, and B, will you seek them out? What kind of things did Pams and Sendo do for you? Do you play practice rounds or have dinners together? Like, how do you sort of help them, I guess, in their transition to that tour?
Yeah, more practice rounds. Just if they've got any questions, it's just nice to bounce them off someone, really, that's been there. It's my 11th year on tour now, and it doesn't even have to be anything big. It's just, sometimes talking to someone about something helps, like whether it's about where to stay or a tactic on a certain hole, why you hit a certain club off this tee rather than another one. So just little things like that. And I think for those boys, it's just a matter of realising that, they're obviously great players to get to the tour. They don't have to change anything to keep him, to keep improving. They'll do that naturally over time by learning, and it's a fun process. You'll have good weeks and you'll have bad weeks. And I remember one of the best bits of advice that I ever got was actually off Nathan Green, and he said, "You'll make 90% of your money in 10% of your weeks," and that's. I always think about that when you're having a bad week. You're like, that as long as I keep doing the right things, the good weeks are going to come. And just on those ones where you are near the top of the leaderboard, you need to really make sure that you make hay on those weeks, I guess you'd say.
Any final questions for Mark? No? Thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck this week.
No worries. Thank you.